fought, as you said, through the online tournament to earn their spot here. So they've defeated all other teams in their way. As you said yourself, Mo, great to see the good sportsmanship of all of the Swedish players here. Congratulating the other team. They fought so valiantly. They did so well on that hard point. And after the search and destroy, I've got to say, I thought we might have a chance of taking it. One other thing, which almost pains me to say, but your prediction was bang on.
Spot on, wasn't it? 3-1.
Not only was it 3-1, but you even predicted the game mode that Grenadas was going to take, which was a search and destroy.
I think there's a little bit of luck in there, but I've got, you know, how strong did those guys look on search and destroy? If they can implement that into their respawn game mode, maybe we can see those come back in a different tournament, maybe contest with Orbit.
Oh yeah, in the future we're going to be seeing a lot more of those Swedish guys. We do have some other great teams coming up though. Barrage are going to be playing. Barrage actually featuring a player from the UK, Quicker.
Yeah, Quicker.
Who's a very, very formidable opponent to go up against. But I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed that series so far, Momo. I'd love to hear what you thought about it, Brycey.
Well, it was an interesting game to say the very least. I was obviously watching it backstage. I said S&D, it's always one of those slip maps, right? It's one of those things we see a lot of S&D specialist teams that actually end up happening again. So it was kind of, we see that time and time again here where you see S&D specialist squads will end up taking that S&D away, but the respawn, they just weren't really good enough. So let's talk about that a little bit more in depth kind of for the people at home that we're actually watching here. First map, we're going to talk about the hard point here. For me, I was watching in the backstage, Anti, those were some phenomenal numbers he dropped, right?
Yeah, Anti, I think it was 47 kills if I'm correct there. He was so close to getting those 50 kills, but within the first 5 minutes he's hit 30 kills. The slaying was there, but the points were exactly the same. This wasn't as if, you know, it was so dominant. I think his teammates really stepped up towards the second part, particularly Nixon, but he just ran away with that towards the last 2 hard points.
Well, speaking of Nixon, there was the replay we're going to show you is actually him, and he picks up a few kills in yellow. The reason I want to show you this is it actually just kind of shows that they're really good at clearing these hills out, and this was the difference, because this could have been a turning point. You saw the flood come in, and Nixon picks up many kills in there. It comes very close, that even though they were contesting in school, it could have gone the other way. I mean, they did a great job to hold it back.
Well, this is it. I mean, that hard point was back and two. Every single hard point area that we saw, it went in one of the team's favour, then it switched to the other. And it was only really the final 2 hard points where Orbit asserted their dominance.
It certainly was. So, hard point. We saw it. It was close. I kind of want to talk about the S&D, and I want to focus on the S&D, right? Because as I said, I've been looking at the replays backstage. There were so many points in that game where ridiculous things happened, things that maybe shouldn't have happened.
I've got to say, yes, it was so dominant in 6-1. I've got to say as well, Orbit, you know, dropped a search and destroy in their pool play. So for them to do this again in the semi-finals, this could cost them laser. But that search and destroy in particular, there was a few 1v1s. They just went in favour of Grenadas.
First 1v1 I want to look at actually is where the player should have died. So I think it's Myrtle who comes out the door sideways.
Oh, right.
First bullet. And somehow snapshots back onto him. You'll see it here. So he comes straight out the door, and even though he misses up until now, he still somehow got this kill. That's a 1v1 that you were talking about. Somehow went the other way.
It was the double jump, and we see these extra abilities. Yes, you can take a bullet or two, but if you can quickly jump and dash away and get those, you know, your aim on point, which Mortal did, he comes out the better and wins that 1v1. And how important is that?
I mean, one thing I've got to say, as you're picking up on Momo there were so many 1v1 situations, and the only round that Orbit managed to salvage could have quite easily been lost. We saw one of the Grenadas players tucked away in a great position to actually empty a few shots on the bomb diffuser, but it just wasn't enough to get the kill. So that could have quite easily been a 6-0 game.
Well, tell you what, we're going to have a look at a replay now, and it's a long replay, right? It's actually Gio, if I remember correctly, he gets 2 kills onto the site, actually gets away and ends up coming back. So this is, as I said, this is a long kind of one here. Gets one diffuser, picks up the second kill. He gets this, and now he actually stays alive to get out of this area.
Wow.
Ends up coming back. This is why I wanted to look at this one as well here. I said it's so important to stay alive in these scenarios. Do this. Now what he's doing is playing the clock. He's checked the bomb at 15 seconds, exactly what you need to do. He comes back, comes all the way through the top. He's going to pick up this kill, which he almost didn't, does get it, and does that round for his team. I mean, that's phenomenal to have that kind of gameplay.
Yeah, I've got to say in that particular one, it was, you know, the 3 kills. You could almost call it an ace. It was the, you know, he killed the first 2. He only needed to make that last kill, and he did it very closely. He nearly got taken out, but using it again, those extra abilities to the best of his ability to duck and dive out of the way and making that all-important kill.
Well, funny enough, the next replay we're going to show you is the one that you were talking about. So this is where he should have made the kill but didn't. Yes. And it was very, very close. He said he's got the angle on him. He should just be able to get him here. The hit markers are going in. Just wasn't able to get it. And if he had made this kill with the time, if you look at it there, he would have ducked out, he would have come away, and he would have played the bomb timer again. And he just didn't make it.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate for them. But at that stage in the search and destroy, they were so far ahead anyway. So they could make a little mistake like that. The number, you know, Orbit had the number advantage in that situation anyway. And even if he had have made that kill, he could have still got taken down. But Orbit, that was the only round they could get from that search and destroy.
Yeah. I've got to say as well, that one we saw him in the right position. He was doing everything right. Yes, it didn't go in his favour, but
if he had made that kill, it would have been very different.
Exactly,
right?
And I think technically he only had like 2 hit marks on him. It looked different. It looked like he was getting them, but he was hitting those posts, and it was all a bit nippy. But I would have liked him to go out, make the other kill, and then focus on that guy defusing the bomb. It would have been excellent to see, but he was playing that more tactical role. Potentially we could have seen a 6-0 there, but 6-1 nevertheless, very dominant from Grenadas.
And so anyways, now let's move on to the uplink, because this seemed very, very close to begin with.
Yes.
And there's actually a replay on this map where the last second ball goes in, because the reason I want to show this is you can keep an eye on the clock and keep just exactly what point it goes in. And I think it's like the tiniest tenth of a second when the last shot goes in.
I claimed it was 0.01 or whatever, 0.1, but I think I was only guessing at the time. But yeah, he's going in. It's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, 0.
See, very, very close.
Wow.
I mean, that was the end of the first half.
Yeah.
Second half, very different story, right?
Well, this is it. I mean, that first half could have quite easily been a 7-7 tie, but as soon as we went into the second side, we saw 2 completely different teams there. The final scoreline actually ended 21-8.
Yeah.
So we saw
at one point didn't really matter that much.
No.
This is it. So we saw 13 points captured by Orbit on that second side, and only 1 by Grenadas. So it was like a completely different team.
It was. I've got to say, when you're so so even on the hard point, so dominant on the search and destroy, and again, even on that first half of the uplink, to kind of just get whitewashed that way is a real confidence blow, and I think that played a part in their defeat in the capture the flag as well.
Yeah, I would say, it does seem a little bit much better at the respawns. Hard point a little bit closer, but a lot of teams practice the hard point, right? So I want to talk about maybe who was your MVP.
Oh, for me, I'm going to say Anti.
Yeah.
And I've got to stress the point that it doesn't always come down to the kills, because sure, on that hard point he was putting up some huge numbers there, had a great kill-death ratio in the end, but he wasn't particularly making the pushes that would put him in a dangerous position, so to speak. So the kills that he was making were quite easy, but he had to be making them for his team to get the win.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that, and he dropped massive numbers in the hard point, right?
As well, yeah.
Hard point, 47 kills, and that captured the flag. I don't know the actual statistics, but he was doing the exact same. He was topping the leaderboard, slaying department-wise. Can't take the credit away from Desui and Robs. We didn't give them really as much airtime as we'd like to, but they were just kind of doing everything they needed to do. You know, yes, Anti was getting the kills, Nixon was doing the objective. Desui and Robs just kind of in the background, just doing the role perfectly. And really, the credit goes to those guys as well. So but my Anti is my MVP.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, is that the same with you?
I think we're both saying Anti.
So they made it into the grand finals. Do they deserve that spot? Was that good enough gameplay from them?
Going up against Grenadas, yes, they do deserve that spot. They won it fair and square. They've proved themselves to be the better team, but they weren't as dominant as I think a lot of people were expecting them to be. The search and destroy was a complete disaster, really, for Orbit.
Yeah.
They really fell apart and crumbled on that, and they've got to be careful of that as they go into this grand final now. The hard point was close, but it was only the uplink and capture the flag where they stood out.
That's what I'm going to kind of ask here. Now, they're going into the finals. They're going to be playing the same way, or do you think this is an opportunity to kind of go, right, well, first of all, we're going to watch the other team, and second of all, we've got to figure out the mistakes we've made?
I think personally they'll play the same the way they do, because again they'll come out with a victory. However, I don't think they'll go in so laid back, and they will think we're playing a good team here. No matter if they're playing casually, like we saw obviously in the pre-game interview, they need to go in with the attitude that they play the best, and they play like they're playing the best team in the world.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we're actually going to be right back with an interview, and it should be Anti from Team Orbit. So don't go anywhere and stay tuned. Hello and welcome back. It's time. We have obviously Antti joining us here in the studio. So, how does that for you? Because I mean, S&D a little bit shaky, right?
Yeah, the S&D was really shaky actually, and we didn't have so many call-outs, and we didn't speak enough to win the S&D, unfortunately.
So what happened to the 3-0? Were they better at S&D than you, or is that a weakness that you're going to have to work on?
I don't really know. I don't think we are a weak S&D team really, but in that S&D we had really bad communication, so I think that played a big part of why we lost.
Well, actually, one replay I do want to look at you with actually is with, I think it was GE, who managed to kill your team and completely sort of demolish you on that round. Was that all bad communication?
I guess it's really bad communication because somebody really need to look that way. It's the most common spot to defend a bomb site from.
Fair enough. You guys got any questions for him?
I would say, I mean, my biggest question was, on the Search and Destroy, yeah, we saw that was quite in favour of Grenadas, but going back to the hard point, we saw yourself, you know, at the halfway point, dropping 30 kills. Now, for me, if I end the game with 30 kills, I'm pretty happy with that. What's your kind of thoughts when you're halfway through on that kind of level?
I don't really think about how many kills I got in the game, but like I don't think my team had so many kills if you compare to me, but yeah, somebody had to make them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got a question here. So you went into that game quite confident with it to take a 3-0. So now you found yourself in the grand final going up against either Barbarena or it is going to be Barrage. Yeah. So given that you were quite confident going into there and maybe we're a little bit shaky starting off, are you actually a little bit more worried now going up against who you're going to meet?
I think Barrage is a better uplink / CTF team because Quicker brings very much to their team, even if it's might be some communication problems with English and Swedish. But yeah, I think Barrage will probably win this one.
Oh, got a prediction there as well, Bryce.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there is a prediction as well. I mean, that was kind of impressive. So, is there anything you're going to work on in your kind of a game break here? Is there something you're going to go talk to the team about and say, look, this is not kind of good enough?
First of all, the S&D was catastrophic. So
well, you said it, not us. You said it.
That we really need to work on, but otherwise we're just gonna keep rolling.
Ah, fair enough. So still got that confidence in them as well. Well, thank you very much for joining us here with your interview, and congratulations on the win and into the finals. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up next, and we're going to have the semi-final coming up as well. So obviously you're going to take a little bit of a break. You're going to be in the grand final. But first, let's have a little look at the bracket and see how that's actually played out. So you can see here, this is going to be the updated bracket. You have earned yourself a spot in that final. Any team you actually want to prefer going up against?
Well, I want to win against them and play against them, obviously.
You're saying Barrage. Barrage is going to be the one who wants to play. So you want to play the harder team, in your opinion. You want to prove yourself as completely dominant here. I've got to ask you as well, how do you feel about Barrage actually composing a UK player? It's not an all Swedish lineup. Does it frustrate you? Does it worry you somewhat? Or?
No, that's okay. Like if they think they're weak on some game types, just bring in another player.
I'd like to ask a question, of course, if it potentially could be Barrage that you are playing against. You said these are ex-teammates. I know I spoke to Nixon previously, and you were teaming with, I think it was Burnsy and Solid, is that correct? Now, if you I think it was Nixon who, dropped those initially and, coming up against ex-teammates, surely that's a bit of pressure, playing against them almost.
Yeah, of course it is, but I think with Robs and Disway, we already attended another LAN, so we got the chemistry is already there. So
yeah, good. I'm excited to see it for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. We'll definitely be seeing you later for the grand final. Go take your rest, go figure out what you need to do, and we'll see you shortly. Up next, we're going to have the second semi-final, Barrage versus Barbarena, and we're going to find out which one of those two is going to make it to the grand final.